Hey guys, Kendall Rogers here with D1 Baseball. I'm here with Aaron and Fitt. We're in Omaha. We've got 8 great teams here at the College World Series this year. Aaron, I love this field right now. When you look at the teams in this field, we have 7 of the 8 teams were in our top 18 in the preseason. And the 8th team, Auburn, we had number 22. So a pretty stacked field we've got.
It is a great field, and we want to thank our friend Easton, by the way, for hosting us for this video. We've got a couple of Easton teams here, Auburn and Arkansas. This is going to be a lot of fun, you guys. This is going to be a really exciting College World Series. We got a bunch of blue bloods here, you know, with 5 of the top 8 national seeds. Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, you got Arkansas, you got Texas Tech, and you got Louisville. That's a really good group of teams right there.
Yeah.
I think the 3 seeds, Kendall, are also better than your usual 3 seeds. We've talked about this before, but I mean, you've got a Florida State team that was a preseason top 13 or something like that has serious pitching talent with Drew Parrish and C.J. Van Eyck and an emerging offense. And then, of course, Michigan might have the best pitching rotation in this whole field.
Yeah, you know, Carl Kaufman and Tommy Henry both pitched really well. And you look at Michigan's offense, they're really balanced. If you look at Jimmy Kerr, Jesse Franklin, Jordan Brewer, Jordan Nwogu, those guys can all hit for power, and Takeo Thomas can make things happen on the base pass. So Michigan is not your typical team that people would expect a Big Ten team to get here, maybe get pushed around a little bit. But this team's loaded talent-wise. They're red hot. The bullpen's a lot more stable now with kind of Ben Kaiser stepping up for them. And then you look at Arkansas and Florida State. I think when you look at those 2 teams, Florida State opting to go with C.J. Van Eyck in the opener. It's kind of an interesting move, but Arkansas does struggle a little bit with left-handers, and so Florida State's hoping to kind of get lightning in a bottle there with Drew Parrish against that hard-hitting Arkansas lineup.
This is always one of my favorite days of the year, is this media day of the College World Series. I think it's just a lot of fun to hang around with all the coaches and the players in a more casual setting.
Yeah.
Everybody is just so excited to be here, and there's a lot of joking around.
Yes, it was the Mike Martin presser.
It was both pressers were really the Mike Martin pressers, even the one he wasn't in. Everybody wants to talk about Mike Martin's final go-round. This is one of the big themes of this College World Series, one of the major storylines. And he was a treat in that press conference, cracking jokes like always. Him and Tim Tadlock trading one-liners. This is a nice group of coaches here, but what's your take on the final run of Mike Martin now? I mean, coming off of the Super Regional, you were there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it was special. You know, you look at the way Florida State played against Georgia in the Athens Regional. I don't think either of us expected them to go into Athens and dominate Georgia the way they did. So they rode a lot of momentum going into that weekend. I think when you look at that Super Regional overall, I just had a feeling about this team. When you looked at that first game, they just kept getting big hits. They were making big plays defensively. They were getting big pitches when it looked like LSU was going to break open things a little bit. And then the second game is that contest continued along there in the extra innings, and they were able to get out of jams against LSU. I didn't have a feeling I thought LSU was going to win at home. I had a feeling Florida State was going to find a way to win that game.
Which is crazy. Of course, it's Fox Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, the place is going wild. I'm still sitting there thinking, like, okay, Florida State's going to get out of this. And it was kind of a weird feeling, but, Antonio Velez really stepped up for them. Chase Haney threw well, I believe, in the first game against LSU. And, Drew Mendoza comes to the plate. LSU elects to pitch to him, and it ended up being a bad decision because Mendoza got the base hit. They win, and 11's over there dancing like a 15-year-old. It was kind of fun.
And they made the interesting choice. They're going to stick with Drew Parrish in that opener rather than going with C.J. Van Eyck, who has probably been their best and most dominant pitcher here down the stretch. But Parrish has been that #1 starter for them. And it's kind of like Vanderbilt. I mean, as good as Kumar Rocker is, coming off a 19 strikeout no-hitter in the Super Regional, they're not going to flip to a freshman. This is just kind of how they go. They're going to go with their guys. Drake Fellows, he's going to start the opener. He started the opener for them all year long, last year too. He's your tone setter, and they're going to put their trust in the veteran there. And Florida State, same thing. I mean, Drew Parrish has been their guy. They believe in him, and they probably like the matchup too against some of those left-handed hitters.
Not only the lefty, but you look at Drew Parrish, and if you're Mike Martin, you're thinking, okay, we got here with Drew Parrish, our Friday guy. Like, yeah, he wasn't great all year long, but we got here with him. So why shake it up now?
And he's been better in the last month. So, I mean,
he wasn't bad against LSU. It's just LSU got big hits in some big situations.
Some of the other storylines to keep an eye on this week and some things that were talked about today during the media day stuff. How about the Citadel connection here? Dan McDonald, Chris Lemonis, former teammates on that 1990 World Series team from the Citadel. Those guys were cracking wise a little bit in that press conference today too. And they're best friends. Actually, Dan McDonald said, he's one of my best friends. And Lemonis said, well, I thought you were my best friend, so give him a little bit of a hard time.
We had the interesting moment with Tim Corbin and Dan McDonald, and Dan was texting Tim Corbin's wife. They're all friends, by the way.
Yeah.
But explain that one.
Yeah, I mean, they just had a little bit of fun with that. I think Corbin said, I don't know what's going on here, but I'll tell you what, this is a group of coaches that all have a lot of respect for each other. That side of the bracket, real quick, Kendall, with Mississippi State and Auburn in the first game. Let's talk about that real quick. We don't want to go into too much detail on each of the individual matchups. We'll be back tomorrow to preview these games.
Yeah.
Auburn is the team that is another one of those house money teams. I mean, maybe in some ways even more than Michigan and Florida State, the 3 seeds. Auburn is the team that I feel like a lot of people aren't viewing as a national title contender, and I think that makes them dangerous. Even though their pitching maybe isn't in ideal shape, they've just got that it factor about them, and they've kind of willed their way here.
Well, they've had to do that this year. You look at coming into the season, not having Davis Daniel, a guy they projected to be their number 2 guy. They had Tanner Burns in and out of the rotation at times throughout the season. They had Jack Owen in and out of the rotation at times this season. So they've kind of had to find ways to overcome adversity. And so this team's battle tested. They're ready, but it will be interesting to me, Aaron. It looks like Tanner Burns is going to be extremely limited in this College World Series. It's just hard. It's really hard to see them making a deep run with Tanner limited. But it is Omaha, and we've seen stranger things. Think back to Fresno State back in 2008. They had plenty of quality arms, but still, I don't think anybody expected that team to win the national championship over Georgia that year, and maybe Auburn could do the same.
Fresno State that year also had a couple of players, or one player playing without a couple of thumbs. If you remember, Steve Detweiler. Now that reminds me because Gabe Holt
dropping to Steve Detweiler.
Well,
I like it.
This is a smooth transition right here, you guys. Gabe Holt for Texas Tech now is going to be playing with a thumb injury. They don't know for sure if he's going to be able to play. They're working on some contraption to be able to get his hand inside that glove. That's a big X factor. You mentioned a minute ago, Burns is kind of an X factor. I think Burns needs to be healthy for Auburn to make a run. I think JT Ginn for Mississippi State to win it all. I mean, I think they can make a lot of noise.
It sounds like he's in much better shape now.
It sounds like he's probably going to be okay, but we just don't know. I mean, he left to start in regionals after 3 innings with an injury. You just don't know what to expect. Those 2 guys and Gabe Holt, who's just really the fire starter atop that Texas Tech lineup, those are 3 kind of wild card injury situations to keep an eye on here going forward.
Yeah, and it looks like with Gabe Holt, I'll be really interested to see how he can handle the bat. It's one thing to be able to field the ball or be able to throw with your non-glove hand, but to get the plate and you get a ball on the inside of the bat or something close to your hands and you feel that vibration, how does he handle that? That can't feel very good. So it'll be interesting to see how he can perform for Texas Tech. But that's a really good lineup. Who he kind of kickstarts things for those guys with Josh Young. You look at Cam Warren. He's kind of this year's Zach Reams for them as a big time power threat. Dylan Noisy, Brian Klein. That's a really really good lineup, top to bottom. A lot of balance there for the Red Raiders.
Well, I know everybody has been asking via social media channels who we're picking to win it all. Something that, Kendall, I never get this pick right. I'm going to say that right at the top. I never get this pick right. It's hard to handicap this thing because it's not always the best team that wins. It's the team that's the hottest. Yeah. You got to have both things going on. You got to be good and you got to be hot. But I like Mississippi State. Yeah. Assuming JT Ginn is healthy, I'm going to believe that he is. I just think that's a really balanced team that I think has a lot of valuable Omaha experience from last year, and the seniors who played in 4 straight super regionals. I think that really matters, and I just don't think there's a real weakness on this club. Well, on one side of the bracket, I've got the Hogs right here getting to the National Championship Series. I've got them playing Vanderbilt, and I've got Vanderbilt winning that series. I just think Vanderbilt's pitching, as the season's progressed, they've commanded the ball a lot better. You look at Drake Fellows and Kumar Rocker, and of course that lineup. We don't even need to talk about the lineup. That lineup with J.J. Bleday. Last weekend against Duke, those last 2 games, they were really offensive, and really J.J. didn't get in a groove at all. And if they hit like that with him not in a groove, imagine if he gets back on track this week, what they can do at the plate. So I still like Vanderbilt on that side of the bracket, but I'm with you. I think when you look at all these teams, I think any of these teams could get through these brackets and win the national championship. Nothing would surprise me with this field. I know we had some other questions on social media about our favorite all-time College World Series memories. And Kendall, just today, interestingly enough, we posted our all-time Super Regional era team. Where we look back at the best players and most important players of the last 20 years since the field expanded to 64 teams. So maybe it's appropriate to take a look back at this, some of our own personal memories. For me, Kendall, the thing that sticks out more than anything, and this is probably going to be kind of an obvious answer, but 2010, the last year at Rosenblatt Stadium, to send that old ballpark out with a walk-off victory, South Carolina beating UCLA on a walk-off hit there by Whit Merrifield to score Scott Wingo. What a moment. And then it was a bittersweet to say goodbye to that ballpark. But I remember standing on the field and listening to the trumpet player, playing the Take Me Out to the Ball game and the fireworks. I mean, it was a very emotional night for a lot of people, but that started a pretty special 3-year run for South Carolina.
Yeah, it did, and I think back at that game, I kind of wrote about this in our preview magazine, but you think back at the game and think about how many big-time players that are now in the big leagues were on those two teams. You look at Trevor Bauer, Garrett Cole, obviously Whit Merrifield, Adam Plutko, the list goes on. Michael Roth was with the Angels for a while. So it was kind of a who's who of college baseball legends / now successful big leaguers in those two teams. I think for me, when I think back, what in maybe 20 years I'll think the most about is maybe honestly last year, like being in the stands for that behind the dugout. Like it was just kind of a surreal moment. Like on one hand, you had all these fans on one side from Arkansas that they could just taste the national championship, and then all these nervous Oregon State fans. And then all of a sudden, on one with one hit and one. Sorry, Arkansas fans. One drop ball, everything just changes, and I've just never felt that at a game in Omaha. And so for me, that really stands out. And I also think back to the Andy Gertsheimer run that Nebraska had back in 2005. If you don't remember that, it was a packed house at the old Rosenblatt Stadium. I think they had 25 or 26,000 people there, and there might have been like 8 people with maroon and gold on from Arizona State.
Sea of red.
Yeah, and Andy Gertz hits a grand slam to left field. Later in that game, Jeff Flarish hits a bomb for Arizona State to deep center. Speaking of talented teams,
didn't he hit 3 in that game?
Yeah, I think he hit like 2 or 3, but those two teams were talented too. You look at Alex Gordon for Nebraska, and then for Arizona State, they were loaded as well with Mike Leake and company.
That was my first trip to Omaha, was that 2005 team. First time I saw Oregon State. And I remember Kevin Gunderson guaranteeing the Beavers would be back in Omaha after they went 0-2. And
that was the original O-State Ballers.
Yeah, O-State Ballers. Yes, they were balling. I think that's going to do it for us here. The Easton, wonderful, luxurious Easton apartment here.
I'm not even sure what to call this. This is pretty awesome. They've got the best view of town here.
Top deck.
The old
Easton
top deck. Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow morning at the Easton booth to give our picks for opening day at the College World Series. It should be a fun day at TD Ameritrade. We'll see you then.